In 2018, the World Economic Forum discussed the possibilities of mind control using sound waves. This is something that several people have claimed to be a target of. They have become known as targeted individuals. A subcommittee for Homeland Security was recently held to discuss this technology and the targeting of U.S. government employees and their families. This is commonly known as the Havana syndrome and dates back to 2016 when U.S. diplomatic personnel in Cuba experienced unexplained health problems.
Guys, if your assessments here are correct, these are very covert weapons, aren't they? They don't leave behind bomb fragments, bullet holes, etc. They could absolutely be used by our adversaries and have very low levels of, very easy to deny that they were even there, that they were used. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's no entry or exit wound. How they're designed is to make the target feel like they're crazy, like they're imagining things, especially on the low duration, the low intensity, long duration hits.
Have any of you three panelists ever seen one of these weapons?
I have seen a 1991 version of the weapon, and it looks like a satellite dish with a unit this size attached to it. And of course, over the years, miniaturization has been possible. Obviously, there's a limitation to how miniaturized it can be because of the antenna size, which is always related to the wave. But still, it is something that can be well contained in the trunk of a car or even a large backpack. My experience shows that it can be cobbled together. It's something that can, a rough, crude version of this that would probably require longer exposure than the more advanced version that has been tested, as we see from this document, can be put together inexpensively. But again, I would abstain from commenting further, lest I encourage people to try it at home.
What you all are saying is there's a government cover-up of the fact that something is out there afflicting, targeting us.
The government in the IC assessment is wrong. It's dead wrong. I can't tell you if it's a cover-up, why they're doing this, malfeasance. I won't go there.
So cover-up would depend on intent. There could be good reasons to withhold information. I will say that the public statements that the executive branch is making is inconsistent with the classified record. And then it would be Congress's job as an oversight authority to determine why that is, whether it was a legitimate reason to mislead the public or because of some nefarious reason, or all the above.
Mr. Grozev said you spoke to a Russian agent who said that they believe that Americans are using these same weapons on them. Is that correct?
That is correct, back in the 80s.
Might that have something to do with part of the CIA's motive to cover up the existence of this tech and these weapons?
That is a very logical possibility.
While it was admitted that this technology is being used, the discussion was focused primarily on Russia, as if to create more incentive to escalate war with the Russian Federation. When the question of whether it has been used on the American population was raised, it was dismissed with a smile.
Are any of you aware of any reported incidents from individuals who are not members of the United States government? Domestically, I should say?
There are many people who believe they are victims of AHIs. All you have to do is look at my Twitter feed whenever I post on the topic. I only represent federal government employees and their families, so I don't focus on the accuracy of those particular claims.
There is plenty of evidence showing that the targeted individuals who claim to be victims of this were the guinea pigs in today's all-out assault on the American people. And our government is far more concerned with starting another war. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese. Adolf Hitler's father was Alois Schicklgruber, the bastard child of Maria Schicklgruber, who changed his name to Hitler to hide the fact that he was an illegitimate child. Many historians have claimed that Maria was impregnated by Baron Rothschild when she worked for him. The Rothschilds have been known to breed thousands of illegitimate children under different names to serve the family's agenda. And their name isn't really Rothschild. In the late 18th century, Mayor Amschel Bauer was the private banker for the black nobility through the House of Hesse and changed the family name just before expanding the family business. Rothschild means red shield, which was their company logo, a six-pointed star, which has become known as the Star of David. This was not a Jewish symbol. It was introduced by the Rothschilds, who later funded the Zionists. And in 1948, Rothschild influence compelled the State of Israel to adopt the hexagram as their national symbol. In the late 1800s, Cecil Rhodes set up a secret society to preserve the expansion of the British Empire. Known as the Milner Group, their main focus from 1920 to 1938 was to maintain the balance of power in Europe by building up Germany and pitting them against France and Russia. They discussed creating a situation that would compel Germany to start a Second World War. During this time, the reparations from the Treaty of Versailles led to hyperinflation in Germany. And in 1930, as the international banking system was collapsing, the Young Plan was enacted, which required Germany to pay about 2 billion Reichsmarks annually, payable through 1988. This scheme was funded by J.P. Morgan, led by the founder of RCA, and directed by members of the Milner Group. It broke the German economy. In 1933, Hitler secured funding from the Bank of England, which was run by the Rothschild banking dynasty. This deal was brokered by John Foster Dulles and Allen Dulles, who later headed the CIA. With initial funding from the Rothschild Bank of England, Germany invaded Poland and received additional funding from the Bush family's Brown Brothers Harriman. The Germans were fueled by Standard Oil and supported by Ford, General Electric, DuPont, and IBM, all of which profited greatly from the war. World War II accomplished the stated goals of the Milner Group. It made the banks and their cronies even richer, and it directly led to the creation of the United Nations and Israel. Theodor Herzl, the founder of the Zionist movement, was not a religious Jew. Officially, he was an atheist, but more likely, he was an occultist agent of the Rothschilds. He was no fan of the Jews. In his own words, he sympathized with anti-Jewish sentiment. His original plan was to have them all convert to Catholicism, and when that failed, he decided they should be expelled from Europe. In 1933, the Havara Agreement, or Transfer Agreement, was made between Nazi Germany and the Zionists, wherein German Jews would be sent to Palestine. Non-Zionist Jews did not want to leave, and so the Nazis encouraged them through persecution. In 1917, the British government announced its support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, known as the Balfour Declaration, and seized control of the land. After the Second World War, with Holocaust propaganda used as the catalyst, this land was gifted to the Zionists from the British, and the State of Israel was officially created. Between 1947 and 1949, the Zionists murdered the locals, destroyed hundreds of villages, and expelled more than 700,000 Palestinians. A savage invasion celebrated every May 15th, known as Nakba Day. Before Zionism created the State of Israel, Jews did not have a common language or nationality, and they were not considered to be a race. The historical record tells us that the Khazars were known for starting wars through deception, and about 700 years ago, they all converted to Judaism. These are the Ashkenazi Jews, who later became Zionists and persecuted the Sephardic Jews of Palestine. They do not follow the teachings of the Torah. They follow the Talmud, ancient teachings that can be described as anti-Christian or satanic. The motto of Israeli Mossad, by way of deception, thou shalt do war, really sums up the nature of Zionism, which includes evangelical Christians and certain sects of Islam. With 80% of the world being religious, religion is the easiest way to ignite a war, which is what the central banks always want. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
Hello and welcome. It's Doug Diamond here. You've reached another Diamond Report Live. We're going to do another live news broadcast tonight. Hope you guys are Doing well. It's 10:10 p.m. on June the 2nd. It's officially June. It's amazing. June the 2nd, 2024. How about those first two videos? I thought they were very interesting. And yes, the birthing of the what we call the nation state of Israel, and then 6 months to the day after the birthing of the state of Israel in May 1948 was the person we know as King Charles. He was born in November of 1948. So just 6 months later. Very strange, huh? 6 months later, the person known as King Charles today. King Charles III. So yeah, all happened the same year. So hope you guys are doing well, and thought we would take a look at the news. We've got a few videos to play tonight as well, so we'll just squeeze in what we can as per usual, and we'll start with Hal Turner's website first. Got just a few headlines here. We'll look at those real fast and then move on. Got lots of tabs across the top of the screen here, so we'll have quite a bit to talk about tonight. So let's see here. Intel, Israeli War Cabinet meeting discussed, quote, full war with Hezbollah, or Hezbollah, however you want to pronounce that. The Israeli War Cabinet met earlier today. Word is coming out of that meeting indicates more trouble. According to two separate, well-placed sources, the War Cabinet discussed going to, quote, full-scale war against Hezbollah. Not sure how that's different than what they're already doing, which is Hamas, I guess, officially, but perhaps Iran. Says the sources would not divulge the consensus. The sources would also not say whether any decision was made or was not made. Whatever went on in that meeting for the time being is hush-hush. So yes, the Hezbollah. And of course, they're already at full war against a little strip of land known as Gaza, and they don't even have an army. And in fact, they're being pummeled and genocided. So what will come out of this as far as full war with Hezbollah? I'm assuming that probably means Iran, but we don't know. We'll have to wait and see. French President Macron to announce Europe is at war with Russia on June 6th. So on June 6th, says it will be a landmark day for the whole of Europe. France will officially make the first announcement of sending military personnel from a European NATO state to Ukrainian territory. Ukrainian President Zelensky, whose legal term of office is expired since May 21st, is to attend commemorations for the 80th anniversary of the Allied landings in Normandy, which was World War II, on June 6th. French President Macron said he confirmed Zelensky's visit to France next week while speaking to reporters. I will have the opportunity when Zelensky goes to France next week for Normandy Land Day ceremonies to welcome him and then discuss very clearly what we are going to do to support Ukraine. According to international media, Macron will choose, not by chance, June 6th in order to announce in front of other Western leaders the mission of French soldiers to Ukraine who will shoulder the responsibility of, quote, training Kiev. Never mind the fact that the Americans are already doing that. This is the first such announcement by a leader of a Western country in another sign of escalation in Ukraine and the Russia-NATO war. Will it be trainers only? Of course not. It is only the first step on the road to open Europe and Russia war. The French brigade in Odessa will follow, and as will NATO forces in western Ukraine. So again, that's on Hal's website, halturnerradioshow.com. He's got one other headline here that you have to be a subscriber to read more information, but you can at least see the headline. I've got it highlighted. Covert video intel, NATO country tanks are being moved to Ukrainian border. So pretty interesting. So that's the news on Hal's website at least. So feel free to look at that if you guys want to. And needtoknow.news. I guess the big news of the week is the old Trump verdict that was handed down. Trump found guilty in hush money criminal trial. What happens now? So like him or dislike him, you can pretty easily say that if you just look at it in the most simplest of ways, you can see that the entire thing was a sham and a totally rigged trial. It says a unanimous New York jury, and that's part of the way you know, a unanimous New York jury found former President Trump guilty on all 34 counts of illegally trying to cover up a $130,000 payment to porn star Stormy Daniels to stifle a sex scandal that he feared would derail his 2016 presidential campaign only days before America went to the polls. Doctoring corporate bookkeeping entries under New York law is only a misdemeanor or a minor crime. That's probably because everyone in New York does it. So don't you imagine that most business owners in New York are probably quaking in their boots now after this happens? Says doctoring corporate bookkeeping entries under New York law is only a misdemeanor or a minor crime, usually involving just a slap on the wrist. However, prosecutors linked payments made to a breach of campaign finance law, which elevated the matter to criminality. However, it was barely discussed during the trial, and nobody testified that such a link even existed. But it doesn't matter. He's guilty because he's Trump. Trump will appeal the verdict. He's scheduled to be sentenced on July 11th. Interesting number. That could face anything from probation to 4 years behind bars. And we've got some follow-up news on that, on what might be happening. It says a short time after the verdict was delivered, the Trump campaign website went down. Such was the volume of traffic trying to send donations. And I've got further information and some pretty big numbers to report on that. We'll get to that here in a minute. I've got an article pulled up on that. Let's just say cha-ching. So, July 11th is the court set date that will be the sentencing date. So we'll get into what might that sentence be, and in fact, there's been some information already leaked about what the sentence could very well be. So, but when you consider the source, you might not want to believe it. So, but we'll get to that in just a second here. Cows do not cause climate change. Top study confirms. Yes, well, it says globalist organizations such as the WEF and the UN have been demonizing the agriculture industry and calling for bans on consumption of meat and dairy products in the name of reducing methane greenhouse gas. Global governments have responded by ramping up regulations for the agriculture industry in an effort to shut down farms. However, new research shows that if grazing cattle were removed from pastures, emissions would actually go up, not down. I wonder why that is. Cattle are responsible for 19 to 30% of methane emissions, but the rest of the methane observed in the study came from wetland soils. Cattle grazing reduces methane that wetland ecosystems give off. Animals also consume plants like grass that humans are unable to digest. And animals can also eat food byproducts that can't be used for human consumption, keeping it from piling up in landfills. Methane only lasts for 12 years, according to this. Now, who knows? But I will say this, that some of the reports that Mr. Dane has put out on geoengineeringwatch.org have to do with methane. And it's not from cow flatulence. It's actually from geoengineering and how the spraying is warming the planet, and some of the permafrost that has methane stored in it is warming up and then releasing the methane gas. Therefore, if there really is an increase in methane, which is considered a greenhouse gas, then you could attribute it directly to geoengineering, because it's geoengineering that's warming the planet, if anything, not cow flatulence. So what do you guys think about that? That's just what Mr. Dane's reporting. I tend to believe him. So anyway, that is on needtoknow.news, and this one is as well. Israel bombs refugee camps in Rafah and burns 45 Palestinians alive. Wow. But once again, it's okay if they do it, right? They think it's okay if they do it, because they're at war. On Tuesday, Israel attacked a displacement camp west of Rafah that killed 21 people in an area Israel designated as a civilian evacuation zone. Israel's latest attack came days after 45 civilians were burned alive at another encampment for displaced Palestinians. Netanyahu called the bombing a tragic mistake. And then, of course, it happens again. There are fresh calls for Biden to cut off additional arms shipments. Samantha Power, Biden's chief for humanitarian aid, said that Israel's actions were having catastrophic consequences. Despite mounting pressure, Biden's policy of near unconditional support for Israel continues. I wouldn't say quite near unconditional. It's completely unconditional support for Israel. World opinion is moving more starkly against Israel and creating a greater gap between the U.S. and its allies. Turkish President Erdogan called on the Islamic world to take action against Israel in response to the latest deadly strike in the Gaza Strip. He called Netanyahu a vampire and called the Gaza war a genocide. He would be right. The U.S. and the West are accused of being complicit with the ongoing war in the Middle East. The majority of Americans oppose Israel's actions. Yes, unless you go to a evangelical church, in which case they're all for it. They're all for the genocide because they think that it's God's chosen people that are doing the genociding, so therefore it's okay. When, in fact, the people that believe they're God's chosen people are just brainwashed into believing that they're God's chosen people. Not only are they not God's chosen people, they're not even descendants of God's chosen people. That's what I think anyway. 24 GOP governors put Biden on notice against unconstitutional WHO pandemic treaty. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this as the night goes on. I've got a couple of articles pulled up on the WHO's pandemic treaty. And we talked about it last week as well, but now, as of yesterday, the big meeting is concluded. So we'll go over a little bit of what happened there. The WHO, what I call the World Homicide Organization, pandemic treaty would turn the power of the federal government over to leaders of a world government under the UN. The Biden administration has signaled it will accept the agreement without congressional approval. Never mind the fact that it's totally illegal, right? Dozens of Republican governors put President Biden on notice that they stand united in opposition to handing over America's national sovereignty and giving the authority to restrict U.S. citizens' rights and freedoms such as speech, privacy, travel, meaning lockdowns, choice of medical care, which means mandatory, and informed consent that violate our Constitution's core principles. The notice comes after 22 state attorneys general put the executive branch on notice that it cannot turn over the U.S. health policy to any global governance body because the U.S. Constitution doesn't vest responsibility for public health policy with the federal government. They warned against a global surveillance infrastructure that could lead to government control similar to Communist China's social credit system, which is exactly what they want to implement. The governor's letter followed a May 1st letter led by Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin and signed by all 49 Republican senators, branding the WHO pandemic agreement unacceptable and DOA, dead on arrival, if it ever comes before the U.S. Senate for ratification as required of a treaty. Yeah, but that's the whole secret. They're not going to call it a treaty. They're going to call it an agreement or some other name, and then Biden will just sign off on it. He'll sign an executive order, and they'll just completely bypass the Congress. That's exactly what's going to happen. Mark my words. And I'm sure you guys already know this. He's not going to put it to a vote. He'll just sign it to give away America's sovereignty. That's just what's going to happen. I'm convinced of it. Denver will use drones to respond to 911 calls after defunding police to pay for migrants. Denver is launching a drone first responder program to assess 911 police emergency calls before human police are dispatched. Isn't that nice? The program will begin in 6 to 12 months, and some other Colorado police departments will also be using a drone program. A representative for the ACLU of Colorado said that she's concerned that First Amendment activities for speech and organizing and protesting could be affected by law enforcement surveillance and can change the way people speak and protest. The move to drones comes after Democrats in Denver cut $8.4 million from the city's budget that was allocated for police services. Meanwhile, the ongoing migrant crisis has cost the sanctuary city about $90 million. The Finance Committee determined that $41 million in cuts from multiple city departments is needed to pay for housing migrants. Of course, because you have to do that. I mean, we wouldn't want to hurt their feelings or anything. Yeah, so the drone program, they're going to send out a drone on a 911 call to see if there's really a need to send an actual human officer to where the drone had been dispatched to. And of course, that will result in what? More deaths, if you ask me. So, I don't know. But yeah, they're going to most likely use it for all sorts of new surveillance too, just because they can. They can add more drones at almost no cost, and therefore more surveillance. So I think the free speech thing certainly is part of the puzzle here, but you also have to factor in that there has to be some issues with sending a drone before you send an officer. Pretty wild. Anyway, let's see here. Revolver.news. It was a plan all along. Trump found guilty, and we've compiled the internet's most interesting takes. So this is, of course, the opinion of the author of this article, but I'll read through a few of these. Here's one post that says, let me start with the top paragraph. It was a plan all along, and anyone who thought Trump would simply skate out of this sham trial without a guilty verdict was either daydreaming or doesn't grasp the weaponized judicial system we're up against in the U.S., especially in liberal-run cesspools like New York City and the D.C. swamp. So, when the guilty verdict came down, nobody was surprised. Yet, decent, law-abiding Americans were horrified as our country has morphed into a North Korea-style dictatorship under the Biden regime. After all, we've toppled dictators who were less destructive than Biden, haven't we? And that was the first post here. We've toppled dictators that were far less corrupt than the Biden regime. That's one of these Twitter posts here. Here's another one. Trump reacts to the Manhattan jury's guilty verdict. The real verdict will be November 5th by the people. That remains to be seen, if you ask me. I'm not sure that we're going to have an election. And if there is, it will also be highly controlled and every bit of a sham. Totally weak and worthless statement. Glitch only gets fired up when Ukraine doesn't get their billions. This is talking about Mitch McConnell, meaning glitch. Mitch the glitch, because of his issues where he just freezes up and glitches. So McConnell said, these charges never should have been brought in the first place. I expect the conviction to be overturned on appeal. So, yes, lots of energy in that statement. But this person on Twitter, Cat Turd, says, totally weak and worthless statement. Glitch only gets fired up when Ukraine doesn't get their billions. So, very true. Rep. Thomas Massey says today's conviction was a weaponization of the judicial system, but there is more to come. Alvin Bragg is funded by the state of New York, but Jack Smith is funded by the U.S. Congress led in the House by Mike Johnson, who refuses to defund the next sham conviction of Trump. And then Tim Scott says, absolute injustice. This erodes our justice system. Hear me clearly. You cannot silence the American people. You cannot stop us from voting for change. Joe Biden, you're fired. We the people stand with Donald Trump, according to Tim Scott. Now keep in mind, I'm just reporting what's being said here. I don't agree with this because I think that the American people have been silenced. It's called censorship. And we used to be able to vote for change a long time ago, but now that is gone as well. So there is no peaceful way out of this mess. Not that I'm advocating anything but a peaceful way. But unfortunately, I think the bad guys have won until such time as Jesus returns, in my opinion. Just in, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. blasts the Democrat Party while while coming to Trump's defense, says that they are helping him win the 2024 election. RFK went on to argue that Democrats are getting rid of as many possibilities for voters. So, Tucker Carlson said, import the third world, become the third world. That's what we just saw. This won't stop Trump. He'll win the election if he's not killed first, but it does mark the end of the fairest justice system in the world. Anyone who defends this verdict is a danger to you and your family, according to Mr. Carlson. So, yeah, and then Megyn Kelly is saying, Megyn Kelly suggests a reckoning is coming for Biden, Obama, and Clinton after the Trump verdict. Yeah, I don't know about that. Maybe not in this lifetime. Then here's a guy that says he just maxed out his credit card tonight donating to the Trump campaign. So anyway, it kind of goes on and on and on. There's a lot here. Lots of statements, lots of people talking about this as they should. But it was a sham, and we all know that. Trump calls on SCOTUS to decide his fate and the fate of the nation. So don't hold your breath on this one, huh? Says, since the bogus conviction of Trump in the kangaroo courts of Manhattan, his lawyers have been talking about appealing the verdict all the way to the top. Now Trump himself has called on the Supreme Court to intervene. The sentencing itself is less important than the timing. Trump has already noted that he's okay with it if Judge Merchan sentences him to jail time, but he's taken into custody. It will completely upend the RNC scheduled for 4 days after the sentencing. Yeah, I mean, imagine the timing. July 11th, and then I think it's 3 days, 3 or 4 days after the sentencing is handed down from the court, because it's really up to the judge at this point to hand out the punishment here. So we'll have to wait and see what comes of that. We won't know really for sure until July 11th. So we've got some time on that. I came across this and thought it was kind of interesting. You guys know that I mentioned this film before, and this is something that Trump has talked about as well, which I think that's part of the reason that it's gotten such a bad rap in the mainstream media. Dinesh D'Souza's film 2,000 Mules has been removed from all platforms. Salem Media Group, I think that may be the publisher. I didn't really check, but says that they have removed his film, Dinesh D'Souza's 2020 election film, 2,000 Mules, from all streaming services and platforms, and they even apologized and promised never to air it again. It's the result of a Georgia man suing Salem Media for defamation. He faced threats to his life, and his reputation had been damaged, according to him. This guy filed a lawsuit in 2022, claimed that 2,000 Mules made false claims leading to threats of violence against him and his family. And, of course, the film was widely circulated and promoted by you-know-who, Donald Trump. But I've seen the film. I thought it was pretty well done. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but it says the Salem Media statement was, it was never our intent that the publication of the 2,000 Mules film and book would harm this guy, Andrews. Salem said in a Friday statement, we apologize for the hurt and the inclusion of Mr. Andrews' image in the movie, book, and promotional materials and that has caused the Mr. Andrews and his family. We have removed the film from Salem's platforms. There will be no future distribution of the film or the book by Salem, the right-wing company added. So they've completely backtracked here. I wonder what Dinesh D'Souza has to say about this. They've completely shut it down. And then if you want to see an absolute sickening hit piece on 2,000 Mules, which again, if you haven't seen the film, you should watch it. And that is, of course, if you can find it now. I know they did have it in the InfoWars store where you could buy it on a DVD. But of course, it's not on any streaming platforms anymore, so you can't see it there. Anyway, but you can get the DVD still in certain places. Right-wing media company Salem apologizes and stops distributing 2020 election conspiracy film 2,000 Mules after a lawsuit. This is on CNN's website, of course, which is nothing but truth on there. Joey Sirot, which is a little rat. I don't know if you've ever seen him before, but man, he's quite a little piece of work working at CNN. So this is hilarious. I probably won't bother reading through this, but you can pretty much bank on the fact that every single word in this column is not only wrong, but it's a lie. So I will link to this in my Substack post if you want to subject yourself to it. But I don't think I'm going to read through it just because I don't want to give the CNN any more publicity here. But just note that it's all a complete lie, every bit of it. So pretty interesting. All right, so let's keep moving here. We've got a Zero Hedge article here pulled up. Netanyahu accepts Johnson's invitation, first foreign leader to address Congress a fourth time. So yes, Mike Johnson is begging Netanyahu to come talk to him. So he's going to. Wonder how much money he's already decided to give Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has accepted an invitation to address both houses of Congress after House Speaker Johnson issued a formal invitation on Friday. With the backing of fellow Democrat leaders, Netanyahu boasted that he will be the first foreign leader in history to make 4 such appearances there. So, take that for what it's worth. Says the invitation leader has also been signed by Chucky Schumer and Glitch McConnell and Hakeem Jeffries. Said they say we join the state of Israel in your struggle against terror, especially as Hamas continues to hold Americans and Israeli citizens captive. Yes, supposedly. I mean, who knows? Maybe they really are. But the point is that the people in Gaza are being genocided. 35,000 people minimum. I think there's like 1 million missing, though. So I think they're probably padding down the numbers so that we don't hear the real numbers. That's my feeling on that. Netanyahu is a war criminal. I certainly will not attend. Sanders added. Sanders is Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders. So he's not going to stand for it. So good for Bernie. That's pretty funny, actually, that Bernie does the right thing. Pretty surprising. Indeed, it is also the first time that a leader who has an arrest warrant out by the Hague-based ICC has addressed Congress and its American people. All of this is happening at a deeply strained moment for U.S.-Israel relations. Israel's military has plunged deep into Rafah, violating prior red lines issued by Biden. Also, Netanyahu appears to have slammed the door on Biden's publicly backing the current ceasefire deal on the table. So here he comes, probably begging for money and probably going to go home with a big fat check from the U.S. taxpayers. That's my guess. All right, and then another Zero Hedge article from Bill Maher. If Trump goes to jail, there will be a racial civil war. I think that's what they have planned, which is one of the reasons they want to jail Trump, in part, also so that he can't campaign. Real-time host Bill Maher has predicted that if Trump is sentenced to prison time, there will be a civil war that will quickly evolve into a race war because of MAGA supporters. So I would disagree with that because that's just ridiculous. Here's the key question. Is he going to jail? Would this judge dare to do that? And should he? I heard some people say that if his name wasn't Trump, he would definitely get jail time. No, if his name wasn't Trump, this wouldn't even be an issue. It never would have ever been a felony or 34 felonies, and it never would have even gone to trial. So the whole thing is just ridiculous that he believes that Donald Trump is somehow getting away with something here. Actually, he's only being persecuted because of who he is. So he's got it exactly backwards. It's on Zero Hedge, and let's take a look at technocracy.news. We've got a few headlines here to look at. You will not surely die. Where have you heard that before? Transhuman scientists buy into the devil's first lie. Moonshot and longevity escape velocity, LEV. Longevity escape velocity, LEV. Theories draw billions in taxpayer and private investments, but they are proving to be a fool's errand. Longevity escape velocity is just the latest theory and a testament to the folly. But it is enough to stimulate new interest and excitement. As other scientists play God with the genetic makeup of mankind, millions are dying and harmed. Both ends of the science will end with broken promises and death. So that's one of the headlines and articles on technocracy.news. Transhumanism, military intelligence operations cloaked in the false premise of transcendence. Today I am amping up scholarship at Technocracy News and Trends with the introduction of this paper jointly written by world-class academics from 3 continents. There will be more in the near future. There are over 9,000 words to absorb here. You do yourself a favor by reading every single word and analyzing every single thought. The evil twins of technocracy and transhumanism are in the latter stages of the transmogrification of humanity. Ignorance is not bliss. So start reading. So again, another article on this same site. Immutable Proof Why Marxists Hate Technocracy, Part 1. Says this official 1944 article from The New International, the monthly organ of revolutionary Marxism, should be the end of the discussion. The technocracy is Marxism, dressed in other clothes, or vice versa. They have hated each other from the beginning because of irreconcilable ideological differences. All who blame Marxism for the state of the world are clueless and blind. And then he says, Part 2 drops tomorrow. So those are the articles that are on the slider here on technocracy.news. Feel free to look at that if you guys want to. Then the headlines on reclaimthenet.org. We'll just look at these real quickly. Google tightens influence on UK elections with new moderation tactics. The tech giant's new measures aim to combat misinformation but raise concerns over increased censorship and control. They're just a little concerned. Says federal Real ID compliant licenses or ID cards will become mandatory for U.S. domestic air travel. So will the mark of the beast, in my opinion. New federal ID requirement raises privacy and central control concerns. They're just concerned, a little worried, but not really. Top 10 must-have F-Droid apps for privacy, security, and productivity. Here are 10 of our most recommended F-Droid apps to get started. I don't know what those are, but again, have a look if you want. Reclaimthenet.org. Child safety or censorship. Frances Haugen's anti-encryption agenda. Critics argue her proposals threaten online privacy while leveraging the emotive issue of child protection to gain support. Australians censors new threat, booting X and Reddit from the app stores. Critics warn of overreach as authorities push for app bans and tighter age verification, sparking censorship concerns. Again, they're just concerned. They're not doing anything about it. They're just a little worried about censorship. Ottawa's hidden agenda, Bill C-26, aims for secret surveillance backdoors. Researchers warn of potential government overreach and security risks if backdoor provisions are enacted, and once again, they're a little concerned. So anyway, those are the headlines on reclaimthenet.org. Thought that was kind of funny, a lot of the same themes there. Liberty Beacon, the Justice Department makes startling claim to withhold the Biden-Hur audio tape. We've been discussing the dubious constitutional basis for President Biden's withholding the audio tapes of his interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur. You guys might remember this. As we kind of get into this a little bit, I think you'll probably remember what this was about. But it takes it a step further, which I thought was kind of funny. I wanted to just report on this because I thought this is where we are. This is where we are in society. Says, I have previously written that the claim of privilege makes little sense when the transcript of the interview has already been released. It seems curious that Biden is claiming to be the president who cannot be heard, quote unquote, who cannot be heard, in withholding the audio version. It just got wackier as the Justice Department seeks to create a new type of deepfake privilege that would effectively blow away all existing limits on the use of the privilege when it comes to audio or visual records of a president. So you guys might remember this. It came out some time ago. It says Her's ultimate conclusion that Biden's diminished cognitive abilities would undermine any prosecution left many dumbfounded. You remember that? After all, the man who is too feeble to prosecute is not only running a superpower with a massive nuclear arsenal, but running for re-election to add 4 more years in office. You remember that when Her came out and said that Biden was too diminished cognitively to prosecute him? From impeachment to oversight to the 25th Amendment, which allows for the removal of a president for incapacities, there are ample reasons for Congress to demand information and evidence from the government on these questions. Congress is also interested in looking at repeated omissions for inaudible statements. Under this sweeping theory that Biden can legitimately withhold these recordings under executive privilege, any president could withhold any evidence of incapacity or criminality. I think that's the whole point. And the reason that they're going out on such a limb here is because they assume that Biden and the Democrats will forever be president now. As previously explained, the claim that the audio tape, but not the transcript, remains privileged is hard to square with precedent or logic. However, now the Justice Department appears to be pivoting with a new claim Friday. Here's what they said. This is the real key here. The filing obtained by Politico suggests that the audio tape must be withheld due to the risk that it could be altered by artificial intelligence and passed off as authentic in a deepfake release. The passage of time and advancements in audio, artificial intelligence, and deepfake technologies only amplify concerns about malicious manipulation of audio files. So they don't want to release the audio recordings because someone could create a deepfake of Biden. That's literally what they're saying here. Never mind the fact that it's already come out what's in the audio recording, and Biden has been talking for years publicly, and you only need a few seconds of a sample in order to create a deepfake, an audio deepfake of someone speaking. A fairly believable audio deepfake. So I just thought it was funny that the Justice Department is trying to say, no, we're not going to release the tapes because they could be deepfaked. So, I mean, how far could they take that? It seems like they could never release any audio for anything, if you want to go that far, or video either, if it could be deepfaked. Pretty funny. It's laughable at best. That's on Liberty Beacon. All right, I wanted to mention this because we have lots of moon skeptics and flat earthers and so on and so forth out there. The flat earth thing doesn't really come up here, but the moon certainly does. So I wanted to just kind of bring your attention to this. China reaches dark side of the moon. An unmanned probe has touched down on the lunar surface for a historic mission. Did they really? Well, my guess is that's probably true. But they're not saying that it was manned. So it says China's unmanned Chang'e 6 spacecraft has successfully landed on the moon in a landmark mission to collect soil and rock samples. Well, why didn't they just get it from Neil Armstrong? He had soil and rock samples. In a landmark mission to collect soil and rock samples from the far side of Earth's natural satellite, the China National Space Administration has announced. The probe landed in a pre-selected area in the northeastern part of the South Pole Aitken Basin at 6:23 a.m. Beijing time on Sunday. The lander is expected to go through initial checks and then start gathering samples from the lunar surface using its robotic arm. If successfully returned, it would provide scientists with the first samples from the moon's little explored dark hemisphere. So I guess the dirt and the rocks on the dark side are going to be different than the dirt and the rocks on the light side somehow. The mission is expected to last around 53 days. Chinese Space Agency said in a statement. It's also shared stunning footage footage filmed by the spacecraft during the final moments of landing. And if you want to watch it, it's right here. It's on Odyssey. Well, here we can make sure there's no commercials. It doesn't actually work, I guess. So there it is. There's the dark side of the moon. It's completely dark. Now here it is. China lands on the far side of the moon. I'm going to mute this because I don't want to get a copyright strike here for the music. So here it is. This is not 1969. This is just the other day. Scientists say these samples gathered by the Chinese probe could lead to important discoveries about the moon's history and evolution, especially as its two hemispheres greatly differ from each other. Wow, there it is. Boom. Or at least on the surface. For instance, the near side is covered in volcanic seas, which are rare on the far side for reasons that remain unknown. First-hand direct samples from the moon's far side are essential to giving us a deeper understanding of the characteristics and differences of the two sides of the moon and revealing the secrets of the moon. So says this Chinese scientist. So I just thought that whole thing was kind of funny and worth mentioning because apparently China has actually been to the moon. Yeah, Susan says you can't make this stuff up. No, that's right. China's actually been to the moon as far as probes go. I do believe that's probably true. I think they probably do have the technology to leave low Earth orbit, not people, not humans, but to send a satellite or a probe through the Van Allen radiation belts and make it to the moon. Yes, I do think that's possible, although I don't think it's possible for humans to make the trip, which we've talked about ad nauseum on this show before. So the reason I say that is because my good friend Bart Sabrell, who has the book about the Moon Man, he's posted this article on his website, Sabrell.com. Google's advanced AI neural network says Chinese moon pictures are real and American moon pictures are fake. And we covered this before, back when he posted it on the website several months ago at this point. But basically, let me just read this little bit of text here on the beginning of this story, and this will kind of sum things up pretty nicely, I think. Google's highly advanced AI, American neural network, not Chinese or Russian, just said that the American Apollo moon pictures are fake, and that the Chinese moon pictures, which were taken from an unmanned probe, which we just reported on, that just happened again, are real. This was announced to Russian President Putin at the latest international AI conference, who was not at all surprised by the findings. AI has never been wrong a single time about such photos. So, anyway, there's a full article on here, and it has more pictures. And the interesting thing is, you can actually, if you want, you can click on this YouTube link right here, which will bounce you over to here, and you can have Mr. Bart Sabrell read the article for you. Advanced AI says moon pictures are fake. So, but what I wanted to show you was that there's a interesting thing about this video. I clicked on the link, and I heard it, and I'm like, I know that song. And so I want to play this for you just for a second. This is actually a piece of music that I knew, and I wanted to let you guys hear it. Okay, so there's Mr. Bart. So the reason I played that piece of music was I knew I could probably play that one and get away with it because that piece of music was mine. That's how. So, if you guys don't know, I help Bart with his podcasts, and I came up with that little intro there that he used in this show, in this particular video. So I just thought I would play that because I clicked on it and wasn't expecting to hear my song playing back to me. So that was kind of cool. It's a little instrumental that I put together, and we use it in Bart's podcast video here. Not just this one, but some of his others as well. Anyway, I thought I would mention that, and that is on Sabrell.com and also on his YouTube channel. So that's what that is. And pretty interesting, though, about the Chinese probe making it to the moon. I do think that's probably true. All right, another article on RT. Zelensky taunts Trump as potential loser. This is Zelensky talking about being a loser. Donald Trump's alleged plans to end the conflict with Russia could cost the U.S. its global standing, the Ukrainian leader. I have to put that in quotes now. The Ukrainian leader has said. Ukrainian leader Zelensky has warned. See, now he's just as fake as Biden is at this point, because his term's expired. He's still holding office, but he's no longer the president. Did you guys know that? Happened just a few days ago. Zelensky has warned Republican presidential frontrunner Trump that he could become a loser president if he insists on a peace deal with Russia involving territorial concessions from Kiev. Trump has boasted that he will be able to end the Ukraine conflict. I think if he was president, it never would have happened personally. Within 24 hours by brokering a peace deal if he's reelected later this year, according to a report last month by WAPO, which cited Trump campaign insiders. His strategy for achieving this involves pressuring Kiev into relinquishing its claims to Crimea and the Donbass and recognizing them as parts of Russia, which of course they are. He's just saying what's already true. And Crimea has been part of Russia for a long time. It's just that the Americans and NATO and Ukraine haven't recognized it. But the people in Crimea want to be part of Russia. The people in the Donbass want to be part of Russia. And Russia recognizes it, but the rest of the NATO countries do not. So there you go. Asked by The Guardian to comment on Trump's supposed plan to in an interview published Friday, Zelensky warned that this strategy could have dire consequences for America and Trump personally. That's because they want this war to go on for decades. So, yeah, Zelensky does not want the war to end. He does not want peace. And he wants Trump to go away. And his boy Biden is helping that happen. So, anyway, as far as his fakeness here, as far as Zelensky goes, back to Hal's site for just a second. Guess who is not the president of Ukraine anymore? This little guy. Volodymyr Zelensky's 5-year term ended on May 20th. He's no longer a Ukrainian president, but instead a dictator who is a legitimate military target. Of course, Zelensky has no plans to resign or call wartime elections, even as Ukraine's love affair with the former comedian appears to be coming to an end. No, this is not a narrative from the Russian ISPO, but quite material from the authoritative publication The Economist, which notes that the mood in Kiev is becoming increasingly alarming, and Zelensky's opponents are muttering that his monopoly on power no longer stands up to criticism. So that will be kind of interesting what they decide to do with the cokehead here. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they will relieve him of his duties or if they will get rid of him in some other way. Who knows? But it is a big question mark, as far as what happens there. And speaking of Zelensky, I've mentioned these short videos on Truth in Media before, and this is certainly worth a watch. I watched both parts 4 and parts 5 today. Who really blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, and then that was episode 4. Episode 5 is this one. Ukraine, where has all our money gone? And these are really short videos. They're about 10 minutes or something like that, and well worth a watch. Like, for instance, this one says the 5th episode investigates the $170 billion that the U.S. has committed to Ukraine through the lens of Senator Rand Paul's efforts to audit the spending. Good luck with that, huh? It will explore the extravagant lifestyles of the Zelensky family and compare them to those lived by average Ukrainians. which I don't think you're supposed to do. Yeah, I guess I'll have to go back to piano playing. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. Piano playing. And he wasn't really that funny, let's be honest. So anyways, who knows where Zelensky's headed, but my guess is it's nowhere good, if you know what I mean. And speaking of Nazis, talk about disgusting, how about this one? This woman, this thing, Darling Nikki, is in Israel, or was in Israel, writing "Finish them" on artillery shells that Israel's about to fire into Rafah, which of course we just reported on. They've already done that. Killed all kinds of people in there, in Rafah. Finish them, she's writing on the artillery shells, in violation of the International Court of Justice's order. Here's a close-up of what she wrote. Isn't it lovely? It's like she's signing a yearbook. Finish them. America, heart, Israel, always. Nikki Haley. What a disgusting human being. Imagine the type of mentality this woman must have to assign an artillery shell she knows is going to be fired at civilians. The level of disgust I feel for an act like this is not describable in words. Israel is committing genocide, and the U.S. is complicit. So there she is. She's writing the words "finish them" right here with her purple pen. So Nikki Haley wants to finish them, meaning all the little kids, all the mothers, all the innocent bystanders. So, man, talk about evil. All right, let's see here. So here's a kind of a good story here. So we'll get away from the evil here for a second. A 12-year-old spells Abseil to win the National Spelling Bee. Burat Soma from St. Petersburg, Florida, won the 96th annual Scripps National Spelling Bee on Thursday. He was undefeated throughout the 3-day competition. Soma is a 7th grader at the Turner Bartels K-8 school. What is Soma's reward? He will take home a $50,000 cash prize. So he's almost got as much as an illegal alien does. A $2,500 cash prize and reference library from Merriam-Webster. So the $50,000 is from Scripps, the spelling bee. $2,500 from Merriam-Webster, the dictionary people, I guess, right? And $400 worth of reference works with other resources from Encyclopedia Britannica. So it says a total of 245 spellers came to National Harbor, Maryland for this year's competition. The final round of the competition, Soma spelled 29 out of the 30 words correctly. His competitor spelled 20 out of the 30 words correctly. Soma cemented his win after spelling the word Abseil, A-B-S-E-I-L, correctly in a tiebreaker match. When people are abseiling, it means they are rappelling or descending down a steep slope using a rope. Unless you're Joe Biden, you would just fall down. So there you go. You learned something new. I never heard the word abseil before tonight. But apparently this kid knew how to spell it, so good for him. So let's see here. People's Voice. We'll just read through the headlines. WEF insider Klaus Schwab facing penalty for crimes against humanity. I don't know about that one. Let me see what that's even talking about. What could it possibly be? I'm just reading these headlines for the first time here. Leading globalists are set to be sacrificed on the altar of public outrage for their roles in the book, according to the International Criminal Court insider, who revealed that preparations are underway for crimes against humanity Nuremberg 2.0 trials at the ICC in The Hague. Do you buy that? I don't know that I do. The globalist elite have done their best to unleash hell on earth in the last 4 years, but we the people have held strong, maintained our dignity, and exposed their lies one by one. Yeah, but they're still running everything, unfortunately. Unelected bureaucrats. So anyway, that's on the People's Voice. Fauci admits elite did not follow the same pointless rules forced on the public. Melinda Gates officially becomes world's largest abortion clinic donor. Something she probably strived to be for a long time, I'm sure. Some people say she's a man. I have no idea. China unveils new mind-melting weapon that causes instant brain damage. Yes, and Joe Biden was apparently the first subject. Trudeau authorizes hospitals to use drowning as cheap euthanasia method. So let that sink in. Drowning. Trudeau regime has authorized hospitals in Canada to begin using drowning as a viable and cheap method. I guess it would be that. Safe and effective method of euthanizing disabled patients. Wow. Netanyahu accepts invitation to address U.S. Congress. I mentioned that a little while ago. The idea of replacing Biden on the 24 ticket is a fantasy, says former Obama advisor. So this is, I guess, we've talked about that on this show. Are they going to replace him with Gavin Newsom? Are they going to replace him with Big Mike? Are they going to replace him with Hillary? Who knows? Maybe they're not going to do any of the above. This says the idea about replacing him is a fantasy. Well, I guess if they have Trump in jail, they don't really need to. There's only one person running at that point. Democrats introduced legislation to terminate Secret Service protection for convicted felons. So that, of course, means that Trump won't have any protection while he's in the pokey. Democrats have introduced legislation to terminate Secret Service protection for convicted felons, quote unquote, in cases including a former president, as they plan to destroy Trump through lawfare as it enters the next phase. So yes, they want him to be killed in prison. But I think as soon as he goes to prison, everybody in prison will love him and won't want to kill him. That's my opinion. White House defends Israel targeting civilians. U.S. did the same thing in Iraq and Afghanistan, they say. And that makes it totally fine. Yeah. Alvin Bragg's office leaks Trump's potential sentence to The View. So let's take a look at that. We'll recommend 1 year in prison. Actually, I think I have that pulled up on a different tab. Let me look at this one anyway. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is under fire for leaking sensitive sentencing information about Trump to ABC's far-left flagship show, The View. Trump's sentencing was set for July 11th, 3 days before the Republican convention. Now, The View co-host Sunny Hostin, I don't know how you say her name, who made no effort to disguise her pleasure with the result of the sham trial, shared on air that she had spoken with a source from Bragg's office who leaked Trump's potential sentence to her. So we'll get into that. I won't bother playing this particular video, but we'll look at that. I've got another tab pulled up on that. So yeah, that's on thepeoplesvoice.tv is where that is. All right, headlines on information liberation. Biden administration to fly migrants from Latin America to Greece and Italy for resettlement. So figure that one out. And this is what I just mentioned. We did the same thing. White House spokesman defends Israel's slaughtering civilians in Rafah. So yes, I mean, that's literally how these people think. We did this before, so we can do it again, and it's okay if Israel does it. Wow. Trump found guilty of falsifying business records in New York hush money trial. Confirmed Israel used U.S. bombs to slaughter Palestinians in airstrike on Rafah tent city. Yeah, they just blew a tent city to shreds. Guardian, Mossad spy chief threatened ICC prosecutor investigating Israel's war crimes. New York Times, the claim Israel is committing genocide is an anti-Semitic blood libel. No, it's called the truth. So, but you're not supposed to even look at what they're doing. Let's see here. Washington Post, Trump told Jewish donors he'll crush pro-Palestinian pro-Palestine protests and deport demonstrators. So this is part of the part of the problem I have with Trump becoming president again, is that he may go completely nuts supporting Israel here. Not to mention the whole Nisra stuff that he perpetrated, and the lockdowns and the warp speed and the safe and effective and all that nonsense. Not to mention all that. But yeah, who knows what he's going to do trying to help, quote unquote, help Israel here. He's saying that he is going to crush pro-Palestinian protesters and also deport demonstrators. Deport them. What if they're just college kids? Okay, well, anyway. DEI expert on white supremacy laments no one will hire him because he's white. So, pretty funny. And then the rest of those after that are ones that I mentioned last week. Information liberation is where that is. Daily Crow. I think there was a paragraph here I was going to mention. Here it is. Trump found guilty on all 34 felony counts. The sentencing on 7/11. Trump's age today is 77 years, 11 months, 17 days. So 77 years, 11 months, 17 days. Biden's age when he was declared president on 11/7 was 77 years, 11 months, and 17 days. Trump found guilty on Feast Day of Joan of Arc, patron saint of prisoners and hero of patriots. So, pretty weird, huh? So yeah, Trump's age today, 77 years, 11 months, 17 days, which is exactly the same as when Biden was declared president. I'm sure it's a coincidence, but that's pretty wild. You guys know about the murder, stabbing, shooting stuff that happened in Germany? It says police officer is fighting for his life after being stabbed by knifemen who injured 6 in German city as video shows wounded cop mistakenly tackled victim, allowing attacker to continue his rampage before being shot dead. Yeah, and also the guy stabbed the cop. So this is a little parody, it's not funny because at least one person here died, and this cop may die too. The West in 2024, violent immigrant with a knife, here he is. And this is the cop who's subduing an innocent bystander. He's got his knee on this guy's, I guess, stomach. And meanwhile, he's getting stabbed in the neck by the actual perpetrator here. The man who had tried to subdue the violent immigrant has got his knee on it from the cop, and the cop's getting stabbed. And then, of course, the police, the officer steps in right here and shoots the Allah Akbar guy dead, kills him. Yeah, and then there's one other one here that we can take a look at on. Well, here, let's look at this. Police officer is fighting for his life after being stabbed by knifemen who injured 6 in German city as video shows wounded cop mistakenly tackled victim, allowing attacker to continue his rampage before being shot dead. I won't play the video because it is really violent, obviously, and it's very disturbing. But here's the knife, and you can see him. He's right here. The shocking spree unfolded in the city of Mannheim at an anti-Islam rally. The attacker has been named locally as Suleiman A., 25 years old, from Afghanistan. So yeah, this is some still shots here. The shocking spree unfolded in the city of Mannheim, where anti-Islamist campaigner Michael Sturzenberger was speaking at an event of the Citizens Movement Pax Europa. Sturzenberger is seen in an Instagram post linking to the YouTube live stream moments before the attack. So this is him here talking, I guess. But anyway, there's the attacker. And somebody did get stabbed in the leg. I know that. You can see it in the video. Anyway, highly disturbing. Okay, and then another Daily Mail article here. We are not bluffing about nuclear war. Putin ally warns as U.S. raises the World War III threat by granting Ukraine permission to fire its missiles into Russia. So as the whole Trump thing was being announced, this comes out. Biden okays Ukraine to fire missiles into Russia, which of course they're already doing with drones and some, not Scud missiles, but like low-level missiles. They've already done that to some degree. So these are going to be more high-tech, probably American-made missiles, most likely. Putin ally Dmitry Medvedev warned the West that Russia was happy to escalate. No one can rule out the transition of the conflict to its final stage, he said. The U.S. said that Ukraine could use American missiles to attack Russian soil. And I think they will. I think they will. And that brings me to my end times events calendar thing here. World War III starts. False flag. NATO enters Ukraine-Russia conflict officially. Nuclear exchange. Russia hit. And it'll probably be Moscow and St. Petersburg. So I wrote this up about a year and some change ago, maybe a year and a half ago at this point. This is my little post-it note thing. The end times events timeline, not based on dates, but based on events. So will that be what plays out? Will it come to that? Will the U.S. or the proxy, meaning Ukraine, attack Russia proper and perhaps Moscow itself, or perhaps St. Petersburg? My guess is it could be both, or it could be St. Petersburg, because that was Putin's boyhood home. Leningrad, the old Leningrad, right? So St. Petersburg would be my guess, but they could easily attack both. And if they do, Putin will absolutely respond, and he will absolutely respond nuclear. So this is how close we're getting, folks. And they are not bluffing. They absolutely will take it nuclear if one of their cities gets torched. And the crazy people in charge who are busy putting Trump in jail are about to hit the button to do this. So we will see. We will see. Putin and Russia have moved 11 nuclear submarines into the Atlantic Ocean. Each one is carrying from 6 to 16 up to 32 missiles, which would hold 6 to 10 nuclear warheads. So it's possible that there will be as many as 1,000 warheads here, is what we're talking about. Could you imagine the devastation? And it only takes one, really. Says the Vice Admiral Johnson, former commander of NATO's Maritime Command, who died on May 16th, just a few days back, said in a recent interview with IHS Jane that the alliance sees more activity from Russian submarines than we've seen since the days of the Cold War. Yeah. And this is talking about all the different ones and how they're loaded here. And note, the second one down here is the Poseidon. And that's the one that I've talked about often on this show. The Poseidon and the Belgorod. This is the one that has the unmanned drones that it can send out and create the nuclear tidal wave to wash over an entire city, an entire coastline. So I do think this may be what happens. And I don't say that lightly. I really feel like Revelation 18 is talking about either New York City or the East Coast, perhaps. New York City. If that is Babylon that's talked about in Revelation 18, the time clock could be ticking. It could be something like the Poseidon that destroys it. I don't know. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. But on the other hand, we're talking about Scripture here, right? Revelation 18. It's an important one, just like all Scripture. So the question is, when does it all play out? We know that at some point something massive is going to happen, and obviously the you know, the struggle is that they're putting all of these things, they're lining them all up, one thing after the other now. Whether it's jailing the leading candidate in the next election, to create civil unrest, to then declare martial law or whatever they're going to do, and leave themselves in power permanently, which apparently Zelensky is now in power permanently because his term was up, like I said, and we don't know. We don't know where this thing's headed, but God help us, that's for sure. The article that I just read was on VT, Uncensored Foreign Policy website. Trump campaign raises staggering $200 million since Thursday. So there you go. I told you it's a big number. $200 million bucks. If Democrats need further confirmation that prosecuting Trump on an obscure misdemeanor elevated to a felony just for him, while the same DA reduced 60% of felonies to misdemeanors last year, the Trump campaign has raised over $200 million since Thursday's verdict. Yep, and it crashed the website too, apparently. So, anyway, somebody's making a lot of money, huh? All right, Japan's space elevator project. You heard about this? Kind of weird. Set to start construction in 2025. That's not very far away. Says Japanese company is called Obayashi, I guess. Space elevator project is on track to begin construction in 2025, making it possible for humans to take an elevator to outer space by 2050. I wonder if the elevator comes back. You think it's one way? If not, maybe it should be. The company's aim is to make space travel more cost-effective, fast, and sustainable. It's going to be sustainable, and it's going to be an elevator to outer space. Yes, we're not living in the Twilight Zone. No, not at all. I mean, how ridiculous is this? Is this the modern-day equivalent of the Tower of Babel? Is that what's going on here? Apparently, it's the Tower of Babel, I guess. Well, no, it'd be the elevator of Babel. The project was first announced in 2014. Seems the Obayashi Corporation is set on making the concept become reality. The technology used will involve a cable made from carbon nanotubes, where have you heard that? Measuring 59,000 miles long, which will form the base of the journey's route. A Japanese engineer discovered carbon nanotubes in 1991 and said to be the only material appropriate for this project. Yes, and also for it's apparently perfect for that too. The space elevator construction concept will take place over multiple stages, with the materials needing to be assembled first. This includes the cable, space station, and elevator mechanism, which will be sent into Earth's low orbit. So, right now we're going to sign up all the flat earthers. They're going to be first into orbit on the space elevator. So, get your tickets now. Pretty funny. Yeah, and I came across this tweet. I thought it was kind of interesting. This is another Netanyahu thing here. It says, what a coincidence. Netanyahu knew the World Trade Center buildings will be brought down 6 years before the actual event. Not a surprise, is it? Well, here it is.
In the 1990s, and I said that the West really doesn't understand militant Islam. So I wrote a book in 1995, and I said that if the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you'll see is the militant Islam is bringing down the World Trade Center.
There you go. Bring down the World Trade Center. And he said that in 1995. So yes, of course he knew. Of course he did. 9/11, 9/11 was an inside job. It certainly was. Okay, I got some natural news articles pulled up. This is another really good website. I don't mention it very often, but I'll try and show some of their articles every now and then. I think they're doing a good job. They've been around forever. Mike Adams' site, as you guys know. Natural news. Experts believe Las Vegas alien sighting video showing cloaked aliens is real. This is not them. Expert believes the viral video of an alien sighting in Las Vegas, Nevada is true. You guys probably remember that from last year. From April last year. Las Vegas family reported an encounter with 8 to 10 foot tall greenish creatures in their backyard after witnessing a UFO crash on April 30th, 2023. The family captured the bizarre incident on video, which has since produced both widespread interest and doubt over the event, but crime scene reconstruction expert Scott Roeder told Extraterrestrial Reality podcast host Jim Quirk that he thinks it's real. Roeder is well known for his expertise in high-profile criminal cases like the murder trial of South African Paralympian Oscar Pistorius, during which he was able to examine footage of the event frame by frame. He used his expertise for this incident. In one specific sequence, Roeder found what appeared to be a head with smoke around it, indicating the use of a cloaking device. The object in question was seen moving to the top right corner of the video, apparently looking over a fence. I applied the same principles that I would apply to any kind of homicide investigation, said Roeder. At this particular time, with what we've seen here, is proof of a couple of things. That these entities are real, they're here, this is not fake, this is not a fraud. The footage also showed a head moving into the video frame the night a mysterious light lit up Las Vegas skies. You guys might remember that story. This light, described as a streak of green, was reported by at least 21 people across eastern California, Arizona, Nevada, and Utah, based on a report by the American Meteor Society. The light was also captured on the body cams of Las Vegas police. So anyway, there's more here and some video. I was looking at this video for that particular thing, and I didn't really see that. So, but you guys are welcome to check this out. Again, we'll link to this in the Substack post. If you're not on that list, you should be. And the best way to do that, diamonddisc.substack.com. The link's in the upper right corner up there in the black box. So feel free to sign up there, totally free. Unveiling the CIA's clandestine strategy and motives for dominating social media platforms. Let's see. Recent revelations from the Twitter files indicate that the CIA led a significant effort to control social media content during the... No kidding. An in-depth investigation by independent journalists Schellenberger, Taibbi, and Gutentag has revealed that the CIA orchestrated a substantial operation to control social media content during the particularly targeting then Twitter, now X. This revelation is part of the latest Twitter files drop. So they're still dropping Twitter files, showing CIA's attempt to manage social media narratives from 2021 to 2022. Yes, and you still get punished on YouTube if you talk about it and leave it in your video. Well, it depends. You can have a big account and talk about it all you want, and it's totally fine. But I can't do that in my small account on YouTube. Although on Twitter, I don't really have any issues. I haven't really been... I haven't experienced any censorship on Twitter as it stands now, at least. But I wasn't really using it back in the book. I wasn't really using it for that. So I can't say it wasn't censorship happy, because it most likely was. Former Finnish government minister once again standing trial for tweeting Bible verses. A former Finnish government minister has submitted her defense to the Supreme Court of Finland as she once again stands trial for a tweet that included Bible verses. How dare her, I guess. Wow. In June 2019, former Minister of the Interior Päivi Räsänen of the Conservative Christian Democrats Party, how about that name? The Conservative Christian Democrats Party questioned the Evangelical Lutheran Church of Finland, of which she is an active member, regarding its sponsorship of that year's LGBT Pride Parade in the Finnish capital of Helsinki. Well, that's the problem right there. You criticize the LGBT religion, and you're going to get banned. So that's obviously the main thing that she did wrong here. To express her grievances, she took to Twitter. Her tweet was accompanied by a Bible verse, which 13 hours later, wow, that was fast, led to her being interrogated by Finnish police about her Christian beliefs. She was reportedly asked repeatedly to explain to the police her understanding of the Bible. Man. The police also investigated a church pamphlet she authored in 2004 entitled Male and Female, He Created Them, Homosexual Relationships Challenge the Christian Concept of Humanity. Yeah, again, that is wrong think. You can't take part in wrong think. Certainly not in Finland, as this lady's finding out. Anyway, that's on Natural News. All right, let's take a look at the World Health Assembly, or the World Homicide Organization treaty here. So what I've got pulled up here, first of all, is a couple of different Substacks. Leo Hohmann, let's start with this one. But James Roguski is really the main guy that I've been following for information on this, because he was on Lost Arts Radio, which was a show that still is a show that I produce and put together with Richard Sachs. And James Roguski's been on the show several times. And I really respect his work. He's doing good work, I think. So from James, amendments. Now, again, this is Leo Hohmann's Substack, talking about a post from James Roguski. Amendments to international health regulations have been adopted. We, the people, have suffered a stunning defeat. In typical fashion, the globalists let us think we had scored a win, and then just as conservatives were celebrating, they heaped a dose of reality on our heads, which I kind of figured that might be what happens here. So here's the IHR, International Health Regulations, from Policy to People's Health Security. This is the infographic that they put together from the World Homicide Organization. Says, until all sectors are on board with the IHR, no country is ready. The IHR is the International Health Regulations. 5 reasons why the IHR matter. This is according to the WHO. Health threats have no borders, according to what they're saying. Travel and trade are made safer, again, according to what they're saying. Global health security is enhanced. Daily threats are kept under control. Ooh, they get to have control. All sectors benefit. Of course, all globalist sectors benefit. The amendments to the IHR have been adopted. And this is a link here to those IHR amendments here. The 77th World Health Assembly has adopted a substantial package of amendments to the international health regulations. James Roguski, the foremost expert on the WHO negotiations of these amendments, stated, "We the people have suffered a stunning defeat. The battle continues." So I'll read a little bit more of this, and then we'll look at James Roguski's actual Substack post, which I think is worth a look. Roguski further states, unfortunately, this is an enormous loss for we the people and a substantial victory for the forces of evil that support the system of pharmakia. The recently adopted amendments will facilitate an enormous global buildup of the pharmaceutical hospital emergency industrial complex, which seeks to trigger ongoing diseases that will be made even worse by relevant health products. Former Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann, who has also closely followed the negotiating process at the WHO, the World Health Assembly, had this to say in an email alert this morning. The amendment rules, this is the email, the amended rules were adopted the last day of the meeting, yesterday, June 1st, in Geneva. Also home to CERN, by the way, Geneva. A meeting is scheduled for July 2024. I wonder if it'll be July 11th. 2024 to pass the Global Pandemic Treaty. So we're not quite there yet. The organization violated their internal rules and created this monster behind closed doors, zero transparency. The bottom line is the WHO changes from a global advisory-only body to an international enforcer of its mandates. They've given themselves power over a global digital ID, mark of the beast, and the power to mandate and enforce those mandates specifically with regard to international travel. So that's where they'll start. The global surveillance state starts now. Nations have 10 months to object, but that's if the rules are followed. We're in the global state. It is here. So I'm interested to see if I don't see Leo Hohmann calling it the mark of the beast, which is what this system is being set up as, in my opinion. So, okay, here's James Roguski's actual Substack post. The recently adopted amendments will facilitate an enormous global buildup of pharmaceutical, hospital, emergency, industrial complex, which seeks to trigger ongoing it will be made even worse by relevant health products. Relevant health products means those health products needed to respond to public health emergencies of international concern, including pandemic emergencies, which may include medicines, diagnostics, medical devices, vector control products, personal protective equipment, decontamination products, assistive products, antidotes, cell and gene-based and other technologies, other health technologies. So they pretty much covered all the bases here. Did you know the word pharmacy comes from the Greek word pharmakia, which translates to witchcraft or sorceries? Pharmakia could also mean poisoning. Caduceus symbol for medicine is also found on Baphomet. Right there. Some important points from the amendments. Now, I'll leave it to you guys to read through these. There's quite a bit here. Article 1, 4, 12, 13, 24, and so on. There's quite a bit here, again. And everything's linked directly to the WHO's own postings. Download all the documents right here. So there's a link here to download all the documents. Again, this is on James Roguski's Substack. You guys can look it up. Or you can be on my Substack post, and you'll get the link for this on Tuesday when I send this out. The negotiations regarding the proposed pandemic agreement have been extended. Okay, so if you hear people talking about the treaty's been signed and it's verified and ratified and all that, it hasn't been yet. It's scheduled for July 2024, exact date to be determined. I imagine it'll probably be right around the 11th. Just based on the Trump sentencing. Just a feeling, you know. For those who believe that the adoption of these amendments is somehow a victory for health freedom, or that the amendments that were adopted aren't that bad, or that they could have been worse, or that we dodged a number of bullets, please realize that over the past year, quite a lot of misinformation has been spread regarding these amendments. The buildup of the pharmaceutical, hospital, emergency, industrial complex, I love that these amendments seek to implement in support of the equitable distribution of relevant medical products is certainly not a victory that should be celebrated. Stop allowing yourself to be deceived. So, pharmaceutical, hospital, emergency, industrial complex, public health emergency of international concern, or pronounced fake. I've got the actual document pulled up here from the WHO, World Homicide Organization, 77th World Health Assembly, daily update, 1st of June, the main document. So we'll link to this in the Substack post as well. But let's keep moving. We got still quite a few more articles to take a look at. Winepress News, winepressnews.com, escalation Biden gives Ukraine green light to fire lethal long-range ballistics deep into Russia. Russia warns of retaliation, yes, and nuclear retaliation. We have agreed with our Chinese partners to increase cooperation to counteract Washington's irresponsible behavior, which undermines international stability, Lavrov says. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov. So yes, the demons in charge of everything in Washington are going to get us killed. That's what we're looking at. All right, next Wine Press article I've got. World's first bioprocessor computer made of 16 lab-grown human brains goes live in Switzerland. A new era of computing has been unleashed after a cyborg computer dubbed a bioprocessor was recently activated in Switzerland, which claims that it uses 1 million times less power consumption than a conventional computer chip. They're calling these brains, I guess. They look like chicken eggs. Anyway, this has the specs, all of the how they did it explanation on here. First reported by Tom's Hardware, which is a good website. I'm actually familiar with that. The Swiss startup Final Spark says their Neuro platform is the world's first online platform delivering access to biological neurons in vitro. So, in a test tube, basically. The outlet explained Final Spark says its Neuro platform is capable of learning and processing information, and due to its low power consumption, it could reduce the environmental impacts of computing. Wonder if it can reduce cow farts. In a recent research paper about developments, Final Spark claims that training a single LLM, large language model, like GPT-3, talking about ChatGPT, required approximately 10 giga something, I'm not sure what WH is, with about 6,000 times greater energy consumption than the average European citizen uses in a whole year. 6,000 times. Such energy expenditure could be massively cut following the successful deployment of bioprocessors. So, gigawatt hours. Okay. So that's what that is. Gigawatt hours. 10 gigawatt hours. 6,000 times the energy consumption that an average European citizen uses in a whole year. So that's quite a bit. But they're talking about ChatGPT using it to train itself. The neural platform's operation are referred to as wetware, the emerging of hardware, software, and biology. The neural platform relies on 4 multi-electrode arrays, lodges the organoids made up of 3D cell masses of brain tissue. Where'd they get the brain tissue? That would be my question. Anyway, how weird. Very strange. Boston Mayor Wu says criminals should not be prosecuted for theft, and the gang registry should be abolished. Yeah, because it might hurt their feelings. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu advocated a soft-on-crime agenda by pushing to abolish the gang registry and arguing that criminal behavior such as theft should not be prosecuted. Yeah, it's totally fine. So all criminals need to go to her house and steal everything she has. And let's see if that changes her mind. Boston Mayor Wu said that she would support a policy that refuses to prosecute the following crimes. So, of course, Boston's going to be one of these smart cities. So this is how they start. They're not going to prosecute shoplifting, larceny, disorderly conduct, receiving stolen property, driving with a suspended license, breaking and entering with property damage, wanton and malicious destruction of property, threats, a minor in possession of alcohol, marijuana possession, possession with intent to distribute, and non-marijuana drug possession. So I guess crack cocaine and fentanyl and everything else is just totally fine. It's fine if you're in Boston. So they're basically throwing out everything. And if you are murdering people, they're probably going to add that to the list too at some point, I'm guessing. Elon Musk just tweeted, exclamation point. Democrats want to protect criminals and put Americans in danger. Yeah, that's pretty much, that sums it up. Anyway, that's what's going on in Boston. MasterCard partners with African Development Bank to provide digital ID access to over 100 million. MasterCard's work leading the new MADE, M-A-D-E, Alliance. Africa aims to provide 100 million people greater digital access to critical services. Yes, critical for their control. MasterCard and the African Development Bank Group launched today launched the Mobilizing Access to the Digital Economy, MADE, Alliance. So again, we're stepping into the Mark of the Beast territory for sure. Africa to extend digital access to critical services to 100 million individuals and businesses in Africa over the next 10 years. The announcement was made on the sidelines of the U.S. Africa Business Forum hosted by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. The alliance will initially focus on supporting the agricultural sector and women. Among the first efforts will be a pilot program launching this year to support 3 million farmers in Kenya, Tanzania, and Nigeria by working with local banks to provide digital identities and access to high-quality seeds and agricultural inputs. So they mean GMO seeds, probably. The alliance intends to expand to Uganda, Ethiopia, Ghana, and the rest of the continent. So they're going to ruin the entire continent of Africa very soon. So it seems to be what's getting ready to transpire, at least. Ford files patent for facial recognition vehicle entry system. Recently, the Ford Motor Company filed a patent with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office that allows both biometric data as means of accessing a vehicle. The patent, published on May 23rd, says in the abstract that the invention would capture real-time images from the vehicle and lock out unverified drivers and passengers. The biometric data would be stored in the vehicle. What could possibly go wrong? So you have to scan your face to get in the car. If the car decides it doesn't like your face or your scan or something's wrong, it's just going to lock you out. Or maybe lock you in. It says the invention may be practiced in any vehicle with exterior cameras that are tied to a vehicle controller with image processing capability. Facial recognition may be retained as a primary device-free authentication modality where a secondary authentication option can reinstate some benefits associated with the use of keypad code entry. Not good. So don't be buying one of these cars. But that, again, that's Ford. Woman in Singapore jailed based on data stored in her car's infotainment system. Coming to a country near you. A woman in Singapore was jailed after police tapped into her car's internal infotainment system, nabbing information to prove she was driving over the speed limit. This resulted in the woman spending 5 days in jail and lost her privilege to drive for 2 years. Wow, they don't mess around in Singapore. Though the incident happened in 2022, the Straits Times recently reported that the police's new vehicle forensic capabilities was revealed at the Police Work Plan Seminar 2024 on May 24th at the Singapore University of Technology and Design in Upper Changi Road. The police said that they are preparing to roll it out fully this year. The Star went on to explain the process of what data the police can extract. Police's Cybercrime Command received a request from the traffic police in late 2022 to extract the data from her vehicle's infotainment system to investigate a possible speeding offense. Wonder what took so long. Officers used the tool to extract data sets including call logs, messages, and GPS data. So everything that she had run through the car, I guess, as far as data goes. The police said the data confirmed the woman's identity, and she was prosecuted based on the evidence gathered. She was convicted in January 2023. They declined to reveal further details, including the car's make and model. The police added that they're developing their capability to extract data from a vehicle's onboard diagnostics port. You've seen those little things that they connect a computer cable to and communicate with your car. Yeah, so that's not good. Not good. All right, let's keep moving here. Wine Press, last article I have on this site. EU considers upload moderation bill that forces all uploaded images and videos to be scanned by the EU. The European Union is apparently considering passing a sweeping censorship bill that would force all uploaded images and videos to be approved by the EU, per a leaked document. So they're going to do this based on, couched in the whole protecting children thing. That's what they always do. Known as the Child Sexual Abuse Regulation. So they want to regulate child abuse. They don't want to stop it. They want to regulate it. Introduced by the Belgian Minister of the Interior and endorsed by a number of other states, Pirate Party MEP, so Minister of Parliament, and Shadow Rapporteur Patrick Breyer revealed this leaked information on his website. He summarized the bill's proposals and ramifications it would create in a post writing. Specifically, according to the proposal, users of apps with a communication function, which is pretty much all apps, would have to agree via terms and conditions. That's the dreaded EULAs, right? EULA, End User License Agreement. And conditions for pop-up messages that all images and videos sent to others will be scanned automatically and possibly reported to the EU and the police. To this end, monitoring backdoors would need to be integrated into previously securely end-to-end encrypted messenger services, even though the Belgians claim that their proposed upload moderation scheme differs from the much criticized client-side scanning. If a user does not agree to the scanning of their private photos and videos, they would still be able to use the service for sending text messages, but would no longer be able to share images and videos. The scanner algorithms are supposed to report known CSAM as well as unknown images and videos that are deemed potentially suspicious by artificial intelligence. The scanning of text messages for indications of grooming, which has hardly been used to date, would be removed from the draft legislation, as would the scanning of audio communication, which is not in use at all. Millions of private chats and private photos of innocent citizens are to be searched using unreliable technology and then leaked without the affected chat users being even remotely connected to child sexual abuse. This would destroy our digital privacy of correspondence. It says, or nude photos and family photos would end up with strangers in whose hands they do not belong and with whom they are not safe. I would say that stuff is probably already ending up in the wrong hands. Despite lip service being paid to encryption, client-side scanning would undermine previous secure end-to-end encryption in order to turn our smartphones into spies. That's already been done. Yeah. So yes, destroying encryption would be part of the whole key so that everything can be unlocked and seen by the powers that ought not be. But of course they want to do this, and they're doing it, they're couching it in the name of protecting the kids. Of course, Jeffrey Epstein's client list still gets a complete pass. It's okay if Prince or King Charles's brother is involved. It's okay if the Epstein client list is what it is and they're involved. They get a pass. They don't have to report any of their pictures being sent anywhere like this. Nope, it's just for everyone else. So yeah, it's obviously a situation that's not really going to work, but they want to make sure that you think that they're protecting the kids, so they want to pass this as soon as possible, I'm sure. So we'll see what happens. All right, Biden campaign spokesman, Donald Trump is a threat Joe Biden will end once and for all. How about that? He's going to end it. So what's Biden going to personally? Is that what's going on? It's kind of what it sounds like. A member of Biden's campaign team went on television today and made an unhinged statement that could be construed as a nasty threat against Trump. But again, it's okay if he does it. Could you imagine if Trump said those very same words about anyone, especially a Democrat? Gave up readers know a rigged New York City jury convicted Trump on all 34 counts in Bragg's corrupt Bragg and corrupt Judge Merchan's lawfare case Thursday afternoon. This outrageous travesty of justice was made possible by the Biden regime. They sicked Michael Colangelo, who previously worked in the Justice Department, to NYC to collude with Bragg to convict Trump on non-existent crimes. The Biden campaign then openly celebrated the verdict and released a statement begging for donations following their success of their sinister operation. Junior Biden campaign spokesman Michael Tyler, that's who this guy is, appeared on Fox News' Media Buzz to discuss the garbage Trump verdict and his boss's reaction to it after whining that the 2024 presidential election was not a normal one because of Trump's supposed threat to democracy. He stated that Biden will end the threat of Donald Trump once and for all. While some say Tyler was speaking from a political standpoint, Trump supporters might draw a different conclusion. Here it is.
This is not a normal election. Donald Trump has already demonstrated that he's not a normal candidate. He is a fundamental, persistent, and growing threat to our democracy, and Joe Biden is running to make sure that we end that threat once and for all.
Because he's going to win with his 80 million votes again, or he might have 100 million this time. Who knows? Yeah, it sounds like a threat to me, but whatever you guys think. Anyway, that's on Gateway Pundit. Radical Barack Obama comes out of the shadows and announces Joe Biden's Palestinian-Israel policy. So just let that one sink in, right? Obama comes out of the shadows and announces Biden's Palestinian-Israel policy. Democrats are no longer hiding who's really calling shots. For years, there have been rumors that Obama is running the show for Biden from behind the scenes. There he is. Obama said once, well, we know about this 2020 interview, that he would be fine with running an election from his basement with an earpiece in his ear. Yeah, we've talked about this before, and I've even played the video before, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, let's see. This past weekend, Obama finally made it official. Obama came out of the closet and announced Biden's Israel-Palestinian policy on Friday. Obama announced old Joe's policy position on Twitter X, and the Democrats don't even trust Joe Biden to tweet anymore. So here's the full text. Very interesting. So yeah, they're not hiding it one bit anymore. Trump reveals he's prepared to go to jail. I think he probably will be going to jail. That's what it sounds like. So, okay, this is what I mentioned earlier tonight, and we kind of hinted at it, but this is what's been leaked. Alvin Bragg's office accused of leaking Trump's potential sentence to The View. You know, the crazy women around the table. Likely to recommend a year behind bars for Trump at Rikers Island. That's what this says, anyway. So, and she mentions it in this video. She says, the other thing I'd like to say is the reason they will do this is because he has shown an utter disregard for our institutions. Talking about Trump. No, I think that's Biden. Anyway, the other thing I want to say is that there's another thing that will likely recommend a 6-month split, 6 months at Rikers, and then the rest, 5 years, so 4.5 years of probation. It's under New York law. So 5-year sentence is what they're saying. 6 months at Rikers, and then 4.5 years of probation. So I don't know if that means house arrest or what that means. Yeah, Emily says Obama came out of the closet. Yes, he did. He did in more ways than one, most likely. Yeah, so that's what this is saying, that this information was leaked to The View, and The View's blabbing it all over the place. And this video is all about it here. That's what it's talking about. Sentencing was set for July 11th, 3 days before the Republican convention. The View co-host Sunny Hostin, who seemed quite pleased with the developments, shared on air that she had spoken with someone from Bragg's office. She described them as street fighters. Yes, fighting for the people. No, fighting for the Democrats. Fighting for George Soros. Street fighters. Who indicated that Bragg might push for a tough 1-year imprisonment, primarily to ensure Trump faces the daunting conditions of Rikers Island. He'll probably go there and be big man on campus, is my guess. I spent this morning speaking to someone from Manhattan District Attorney's Office. They're called street fighters. He believes that they will recommend a 1-year prison term. And that's because when you spend a year in prison in New York or under, you serve on Rikers Island. So, yeah. So, we'll see. We'll see if that's where this goes. If it is where it goes, I'm predicting there will be not only massive protests, but also Fed-driven, probably mass, and they'll do it in the name of, these are MAGA supporters doing it. You know what I mean? These will be your classic false flag type events where you have the feds doing the dirty work, doing the actual error and blaming MAGA people for it. So that's what I think is probably coming. And that is, of course, if any of this is true about the Rikers Island and the sentencing and stuff. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's a month away. So, yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. Failure to launch Boeing's first manned space flight. First manned space flight aborted in last minute due to an unidentified problem. I wonder if the door fell off. Because it is Boeing, after all. Boeing's extensive incompetence extends beyond their garbage planes and into their spacecraft. I didn't even know they made spacecraft. But apparently they do. CBS News reported Boeing's Starliner was within minutes of blasting off into space Saturday before it detected a problem that triggered a last-minute reversal. Had the launch been successful, it would have marked a historic first astronaut flight for Boeing. Could you imagine being the guy on that thing? No, thank you. The next attempted launch will take place no earlier than tomorrow, so they're going to reschedule it right away. So this is them. This is the rocket here, and they have a video here of them doing nothing, aborting the mission. It's unclear at this point what caused the issue. CBS revealed NASA claimed the ground launch sequencer did not load the proper configuration files when the countdown resumed. I think that's some of the problems that NASA encountered back in the 60s too, don't you? Did not upload the proper configuration files. That's about that believable. I like it though. It says they encountered an unidentified problem. My first gut reaction to that was the unidentified problem they encountered, gravity. That's my thought. All right. Inexcusable. Biden's Pentagon mistakenly celebrates LGBTQ Pride Month in a PTSD awareness social media post. Biden's Defense Department made an inexcusable error on Saturday when the agency mistakenly, in quotes, mixed up LGBTQ Pride and PTSD Awareness Month. The Pentagon posted on X explaining that June marks PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, Awareness Month. Now that I could understand. As Fox News notes, it was first recognized by the U.S. government in June 2014, 1 year before June officially also became Gay Pride Month. June is PTSD Awareness Month. So if you want to celebrate June being something, you can celebrate that. And the DoD is committed to supporting service members and veterans affected by PTSD. That's what the Post read. And you can see it here. But there's a little problem. It says, however, there's a problem with the tweet. The picture attached below The words in the post read, "Celebrate Pride Month 2024, complete with a progress pride flag photo." So here it has the proper, actual correct text, I guess, from the Defense Department. June is PTSD Awareness Month. And then if you're struggling with PTSD, reach out, learn more at ptsd.va.gov. You're not alone. So that text is all good. Unfortunately, they stuck it with the Celebrate Pride Month 2024 flag and all of the logos of the various armed services below it. So they then deleted the post and replaced it with the one that had the proper photo. So somebody really screwed up over at the old DOD. Not too surprising. Speaking of Pride Month, allegedly deaf transgender LGBTQ activist charged with murdering his husband with a samurai sword. I guess if you're going to go out in style, huh? A 70-year-old transgender LGBTQ activist from the United Kingdom stands accused of murdering his husband in an unusual fashion. Yeah, that's pretty unusual. Samurai sword. Officers revealed that Andrew was killed by a samurai sword, not exactly an ordinary weapon of choice. It is not known at this point whether the suspect is a fan of Japanese culture. Well, they do have a samurai sword, so what's that tell you? Pretty wild. It's a crazy one out there. This is London, not Londonistan. Tommy Robinson leads huge patriotic rally in central London to oppose mass immigration. Londonistan. A massive rally took place across central London on Saturday as patriotic Brits voiced their opposition to mass immigration that has destroyed their beautiful city. Yep. So anyway, Tommy Robinson getting in trouble again. No, I like Tommy. He's doing good work out there. Anyway, he's standing up for what's right. Thought this was odd. Tulsi Gabbard's aunt murdered in cold blood. Samoan police have reported that former University of Hawaii professor Caroline Gabbard, Sinaviana, I guess, Caroline Sinaviana Gabbard, who is the aunt of Tulsi Gabbard, was murdered in Samoa. According to Hawaii News Now, she's 78, was killed by a Samoan playwright who was 57 after the two got into a heated argument at a theater. Wow. He stabbed her several times and beat her with a hammer. Man. After the violent act, the guy allegedly fled to a friend's house where she was later arrested. Oh, maybe it was a woman. Yeah. Papali Sia Fagel. Heated argument. So stabbed her and hit her and beat her with a hammer. But apparently it was a woman. Samoan police have charged a prominent playwright with the murder of retired UH professor Caroline Gabbard, former Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard's aunt. So how about that? Very strange. All right, lawfare. George Soros' heir, Alex Soros, urges Democrats to consistently call Trump a convicted felon at every opportunity. See, this is part of the whole thing. This is getting him off of the campaign trail was obviously a huge part of it. But having the ability to label him at every turn as a convicted felon, quote unquote, is what they really wanted. So really, I would say enough said on this. But seems obvious, huh? Just in, Michelle Obama's mom dead at 86. Former First Lady Michelle Obama announced her mother, Marianne Louise Shields Robinson, passed away on Friday. She was 86. So Michelle Obama, or Big Mike, as some people say, lost his mom. That's really sad. So anyway, there aren't that many people know whether Michelle is a woman or not, but now there's one less person that knows that. Millions of chickens. So we have the bird flu that's happening, that's threatening all birds. And just so happens that millions of chickens were killed in a 5-alarm fire at Farina Farms, Inc. in Illinois, one of the nation's largest free-range egg facilities. So the price of eggs and chicken are about to go up again. Massive fire broke out at Farina Farms, Marion County, Illinois, Wednesday night, resulting in the deaths of millions of chickens. The farm is one of the largest free-range egg facilities in the country. Man, look, it's got a mushroom cloud above it. Pretty wild. Transported nearly 30,000 gallons of water over a distance of 45 miles to assist in the firefighting efforts. It was burning almost as bad as a Tesla. Take that much water. It's crazy. Anyway, yeah, 5-alarm fire. Smoke was so dense that it was visible on power Doppler radar. Fox 2's power Doppler radar, reaching altitudes of between 13,000 and 15,000 feet. That's like a small volcanic eruption. Wow. The chicken fire. That is so crazy. Wayne Root says, I hinted to this earlier, mentioned it earlier actually. My CIA sources say Biden administration knows waves of Red Dawn terror attacks will be carried out in the USA any day. Yet, they refuse to warn the American people. Why? Because they want us to die. It's very simple, Wayne. Come on. Says, he's been warning on his radio show about waves of Red Dawn terror attacks coming soon to the U.S., which we all know this is coming because they dropped the border some time ago, back when Biden got in. And you've got literally millions of people flooding in. That's all changed. I now have high-level inside information from my sources at the CIA confirming what's coming. So Wayne Root's saying that he has an actual inside information source from the CIA saying that that's what's coming, which tells me that the CIA will be the ones to perpetrate it and run it and quarterback it and do everything like that. Says anyone can see that the Biden administration, led by zombie dementia puppet Joe Biden and his boss, Obama, the real president, have opened the borders and waved the entire world in. And anyone with a brain knows that among the millions waved in have been hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of terrorists. Just recently, the National Sheriff's Association claimed there are 2 million terrorists inside the USA. Please understand, all it took was 2,000 terrorists on October 7th to invade Israel. No, it wasn't even that many. To murder, rape, burn, and behead 1,200 innocent souls, and I have my doubts that any of that or very little of that happened. But Wayne Root believes that he is a, let's say, an Ashkenazi type person, and he thinks that everything they do is sanctioned by God, and therefore they can do anything they want. So with that, I disagree. However, I do think he's probably right about what's coming to the U.S. This is one of those situations where I don't feel like you can throw out everything that you don't like that someone says and just throw out everything that they say and just figure that nothing they say is right. I do think that there's situations where sometimes people say stuff that is actually correct, even though they may have a lot of other problems. And Trump is one of those type of people. And I think that Wayne Root is one of those type of people for the very reason that I mentioned earlier. Can you imagine what damage and death 2 million terrorists could do inside the U.S.? Anyway, so this is something that I mentioned to some degree a week or two ago, where we were talking about the army of people coming across the border, military-age fighting men, will most likely be part of the UN or the WHO army to enforce, when the next lockdowns and pandemic happens, to enforce the the WHO's pandemic treaty that is almost approved. Will probably be approved in July. That's what I'm thinking. Whether or not Wayne Root is correct, I think he probably is correct to some degree. Do we think that there's going to be... Well, here it says, I've written many this is Wayne Root talking. I've written many commentaries warning what they might have planned for America. My biggest fear is not another massive high-tech 9/11 terror attack, although that may be coming. My biggest fear is simple, low-tech attacks that are easy and inexpensive to carry out. And he talks about Red Dawn, Patrick Swayze movie. Says, today there's no need for an invasion by our enemies because the invasion has already happened. Millions of terrorists and Chinese military-age males are already in the U.S. What are they waiting for? Are they waiting for the right moment to celebrate, to create chaos for our upcoming presidential election? It could be. Are they waiting for the moment that China attacks Taiwan? Are they training inside our country for the perfect moment for a coordinated Red Dawn terror attack? So here's what he's laying out here. Simple, inexpensive. All our enemies would need to do is the following. Coordinate 50 groups of terrorists to walk into supermarkets, department stores, train stations, airport terminals, hotel lobbies, restaurants, nightclubs, theaters, and schools. And keep in mind, they all have Obama phones. They all have phones when they came in, too. Many of them. 50 groups at the exact same time in 50 cities across the country and start killing. So this is what he's proposing, and this is, I don't know if this is his idea as to one way it might all unfold, or if this is what he was told was going to happen. I don't know. Anyway, he's saying it's already proven successful in Israel on October 7th. That's the blueprint, which blah, blah, blah. Yeah, right. By the time enough police or military by the time the police or military get to each terror scene, there will be 100 dead or more at each scene. What if 100 Americans were murdered in 50 cities at the exact same time? That's 5,000 dead Americans. I think that's highly plausible. So just something to keep in mind. I like Wayne Root. I think he's doing good work for the most part. I think he's wrong about Israel, but I do think he's right about this and many other things. Anyway, just thought I would bring your attention to it. Something to watch out for, and stay out of public places. That's lesson number 1, in my opinion. City scolded for banning chaplains from praying in Jesus' name. Wow. Official claimed petitions to God were, quote, harassment. Members of the city council in Carlsbad, I'm sure you probably have heard of it, I've been through there before, have been scolded for insisting that a chaplain who has prayed in Jesus' name is guilty of harassment. Harassment. It is First Liberty Institute that has sent a letter to the council members urging them to revoke an order from their city manager that forbids police chaplain J.C. Cooper and fire chaplain Denny Cooper from concluding prayers at some events in Jesus' name. The demons are terrified, aren't they? I'll keep going here. The city council should follow the Supreme Court's clear statements with respect to prayers, such as the chaplains, and allow them to pray according to their sincere religious beliefs. The Institute explained that J.C. Cooper is a local pastor who has faithfully served as a volunteer chaplain for the Carlsbad Police Agency for 6 years. His father, Denny, served as a volunteer chaplain for the fire department for 18 years. Both provide support, encouragement, and prayer to first responders as they face traumatic situations. Says, when asked by the police chief to give the invocation at the Carlsbad Police Department Awards ceremony, J.C. concluded his prayer consistent with his long-held beliefs in Jesus' name. He was later told by the city manager that unless he removed in Jesus' name from his invocation, he would be subject to discipline. He was then told that he could refer to any other name for God, just not Jesus. Any other God's fine, you see. What's that tell you? Tells me the guy's doing the right thing. And my guess is he probably won't back down. Hope he doesn't. So yeah. Wild stuff. So this is another story. Same situation, different people. Kentucky high school student denied diploma after honoring Jesus during off-script graduation speech. A high school in Kentucky withheld a Christian graduate's diploma when he reportedly went off script during his graduation speech to praise Jesus and encourage others to seek him. Wow. As the New York Post reported Thursday, Micah Price gave a commencement speech at Campbell County High School in Alexandria, Kentucky on May 24th. He reportedly was permitted to praise Jesus Christ by school officials, but ended up ticking them off after asking other Christians to find God. WKRC notes administrators approve the speeches that students rehearse. Okay? Class, before another, this is what he said, class, before another word leaves my mouth, I must give the honor and praise and glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Price began. The crowd interrupted him with rousing applause before he continued spreading his religious message. He's the light, he's the way, the truth, and the life, Price continued. Class, everyone in the audience today, I'm here to tell you if you don't have any of those things in your life, you can't seem to find the answer. My Lord and Savior is your answer, and he will give you the truth, the way, and the life. And here's the actual speech if you want to hear it. Price then revealed in a TikTok video on Sunday that school officials responded by scolding him and denying him his hard-earned diploma. After the speech was over, one of the principals came in, tapped me on the shoulder very politely, and professionally told me that I was going to have to go in front of the board and explain what I did because I went off script. Wow. Superintendent defended the decision to withhold Price's diploma in an interview. All speakers were told that going off their submitted speech or any unplanned choices at graduation may have repercussions as they would at any school function. Off-program choices such as speech, signs, and caps in support of any cause or religion, injecting inappropriate language, or political election statements could lead to something other than this outpouring of Christian faith, she continued. So how about that? Kids punished for going off script and talking about Jesus. I say let us all be that guilty. What say you? ActivistPost.com, can biotech control human behavior? I think this has been proven. Let's see. Every so often you find a study that breaks new ground and advances human understanding. The journal Transplantology has published a paper entitled Personality Changes Associated with Organ Transplants, which documents the experiences of individuals who receive a range of donated organs, including hearts, kidneys, liver, and lungs. It's not well known that heart transplant recipients can experience consequent personality changes. Notably, this study shows that the same is true for other types of organ transplants. Wow. I'd never heard of that, had you? In all, 87% of subjects experienced marked, unusual changes that challenged their behavior, sense of identity, and personal preferences. First-person reports and evidence from donor families confirm that some of these effects involve the transfer of personality traits, such as food or behavioral preferences from the donor to the organ recipient. For example, an avid meat eater might become a vegetarian who cannot face meat on their plate. This is an unexpected result that challenges conventional ideas. This study points to the distributed location of memory throughout physiology and its close association with a variety of organ systems. it amply illustrates how little the life sciences understand about the interface between consciousness and matter. Prior speculations about the origins of these effects had centered around three possible mechanisms: psychological imprinting, cellular biochemistry, and electromagnetic fields. The study results clearly point to the importance of biochemical mechanisms. Yeah, I would say it's maybe all the above. So anyway, yeah, personality changes in people who have received organs in organ donations. That's something I don't know that I've really thought about before, but this is confirming it. Pretty wild. Crazy stuff. All right, well, it looks like Walmart's going all in on Pride Month, so y'all get ready for gay Ramadan or what. Personally, I cannot wait. Neither can the peeps over at Walmart, because look at this. Queer people have magic. So Walmart apparently did not learn from Budweiser or Target or some of the other people who lost millions and millions of dollars. Companies, I should say. Queer people have magic. Walmart goes all in on Pride Month 2024. You know what to do. So yes, boycotting Walmart might be your next best thing you can do. So they've come out with their own line of gay clothes and stuff, just like Target did last year. So again, you know what to do. All right, I saw this and thought this was worth repeating, just because these are indeed iconic films, and I think I've seen almost all these, if not all these, on this list. Nostalgia alert: 10 iconic films that Gen X parents must show their children. And I think my kids have seen a lot of these. I don't know about all of them, but I think I've seen all of them, but maybe one. E.T. the Extraterrestrial, 1982. The Goonies, 1985. Back to the Future, 1985. The Breakfast Club, 1985. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, 1977. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 1986. The Princess Bride, 1987. Karate Kid, 1984. Ghostbusters, 1984. And Stand By Me, 1986. And then there's a little synopsis of each of the films, which I'm sure you guys know very well, but I thought that was pretty good. It's on RVM. RVM News is the website, but yeah, pretty good films, all those. So definitely worth a watch. Saw this and thought this was very appropriate. Dems, Nobody is Above the Law starter pack. Laptop, emails, clients, and research. So there's Fauci there. Nobody's Above the Law starter pack. And this is what we're all experiencing. I wake up. Democrats do something blatantly illegal. GOP politicians are outraged. Nothing happens. I wake up. Democrats do something blatantly illegal. GOP politicians are outraged. Nothing happens. The vicious cycle. All right. I saw someone mention, might have been Williams, somebody in chat mentioned the evil grin, Biden's evil grin, when asked about being a political prisoner. So here it is.
Mr. President, can you tell us, sir, Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you directly. What's your response to that, sir? Do you think the conviction will have an impact on the campaign? We'd love to hear your thoughts, sir.
Should he be on the ballot, sir?
I like how they're following it all up with sir. I don't think I would use the word sir. So there he is. There's the evil smile. He likes it. Anyway, that is something that almost looks rehearsed, although I don't know. Surely he couldn't have been that surprised to get that question. But maybe he was. Who knows? He doesn't know what moment it is from second to second, so it's hard to say. All right, vaccineimpact.com. Catholic churches going bankrupt as families abandon the church to protect their children from pedophile priests. Yep. Let's see. America's last stand defending Israel, a crumbling empire. Will America's defense of Israel be her last stand? Maybe. And then I mentioned this last week, evangelical Christians running orphanage in Haiti murdered. Time to shut down orphanages in Haiti's lucrative child trafficking business. I don't know. Anyway, that was on Vaccine Impact. And then GeoWatch for this week, we had Mr. Dane's article, Global Alert News for yesterday, June 1st. Fierce hail that caused major damage described as hell on earth. From Fox News. Massive hailstorms keep hitting the U.S. from the Washington Post. Texas town deploys snowplows after a 50-degree temperature swing and 2 feet of hail. Residents of a southwest Texas town reported a dramatic temperature drop on Wednesday and hail so deep they had to deploy snowplows to clear the streets. The temperature in Marathon, Texas fell more than 50 degrees on Wednesday afternoon as thermometers tumbled from around 105 degrees to the mid-50s in about an hour. From ABC News. From the Weather Channel, DVD-sized hailstone. People don't even know what DVDs are. DVD-sized hailstones fall in Texas. Record heat and record ice falling from the skies. Do these weather scenarios make sense meteorologically speaking? Welcome to the patented processes of chemical ice nucleation cloud seeding. What else will the coming weeks and months bring? So, Global Alert News for this week. The insider scoop is that it's the reverse of normal. The YouTube version this week is the long one, and the version that went on the radio has to be a certain length. So that show was shorter. So all the extra stuff was on YouTube this week, believe it or not. So I think it was 73 minutes maybe. Yeah, almost 74 minutes. And the radio version, if you happen to hear him on the radio, Dane Wigington that is, if you heard the radio broadcast, it's limited to 55 minutes. So, yeah, you get way more on YouTube this week. So the one embedded on GeoWatch is the one to listen to if you didn't already hear it. So feel free to go there, geoengineeringwatch.org, and then the scheduled weather for this week. It's the flip-flop of what we've been seeing. So we got above normal temps in the west and below normal in the east, with the split down the center, more or less. Above normal in Florida, though, in Texas. So, again, chemical ice nucleation, they're keeping the eastern half of the U.S. cool on purpose. And they do that by chemical ice nucleating, cooling down the moisture. It's all driven by moisture. The moisture that they bring up from the Gulf of Mexico is used to cool the eastern half of the U.S., usually. That's generally what happens. All right, so speaking of wacky weather, I saw this and thought this was really interesting on Israel 365 News. Colorado hailstorm, which I just mentioned, hints that pre-Messiah replay of plagues are quickly approaching. So apparently Israel 365 News has no idea about chemical ice nucleation. I can pretty much guarantee you that. So they think this is of God, which, God is allowing it. I'll give you that. But they're saying that the Colorado hailstorm hints at a pre-Messiah. And of course, their Messiah is not Jesus. Their Messiah is the Moshiach, who I've talked about at length, I believe is a 30-some-year-old well-known rabbi over there that I've mentioned multiple times, the Yanuka. The Denver metropolitan area experienced intense hailstorm Thursday, which led to the largest hailstones recorded in the county for 35 years. National Weather Service issued destructive, severe thunderstorm warnings in the Denver area. Baseball-sized hail and wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour were reported, with accumulations of 2.75 inches. Damage to vehicles, homes, and trees were also reported in many locations. So let me play this. It's not very long, I don't think. About a minute.
It just went through the window.
Okay, this is the front yard. Look at this. Oh my gosh.
Wow. That was crazy. There's some intense hail there. So, but they're saying that it's because the Messiah is coming. And again, they mean their Moshiach. That's who they're talking about. Says the hail was very heavy, fire flashing in the midst of the hail, such as had not fallen in the land of Egypt since it had become a nation. Exodus 9:24. Indeed, increasing hailstorms replaying the Egyptian plague may be setting the stage for the final redemption. Jewish sources predict that all of the plagues will reappear in the final redemption, but in even more powerful forms. It is written in the Midrash, the homiletic teachings collected around the 5th century, that just as God struck the Egyptians with 10 plagues, so too he will strike the enemies of the Jewish people. Note that it's hitting Colorado. The enemies of the Jewish people at the time of the redemption. Note that it's hitting the U.S., the enemies of the Jewish people. This concept was explained by Rabbi Bahia ben Asher, 13th century Spanish commentator, who wrote, in Egypt, God used only part of his strength. When the final redemption comes, God will show much more of his power. The Israel Bible poignantly explains why the 7th plague, a combination of fire and ice, is appropriate for our turbulent times. The hail contains both fire and ice, yet the fire does not melt the ice, and the water of the ice does not extinguish the fire. They are able to exist in harmony for the purpose of fulfilling God's will. Similarly, the medieval commentator Rashi comments Genesis 1:8 that the Hebrew word for heaven, shemayim, comes from the Hebrew word aish, fire, and mayim, water, as the two came together in harmony to make up the heavens. This serves as a powerful lesson of peace and is referenced in the daily Jewish prayer service. The following supplication appears multiple times in the liturgy. He who makes peace in his heights between fire and water, may he make peace upon us and upon all Israel. But Israel is a people, not lines drawn on a map. Anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. They're talking about the hailstorms and everything happening in the U.S., and yet it's Israel's enemies who get drenched with hail, get pounded with hail, and in response is the biblical concepts there that they talked about in the article, and then they're saying that the Moshiach may be soon to come. So yeah, we will see. Anyway, if you're not on the Substack list, please join that. Totally free, diamonddisc.substack.com. It's in the box in the upper right corner. And you'll just go there and put in your email address. If you don't mind, hit subscribe. If you want to stay in touch with what I'm doing, it's probably the best way to do it. Or you can join the band group. And I would say, even between the two, maybe do the Substack, because the band group is a good way to communicate back and forth, but I don't really send out the links in band. I still just use the email, the old email inbox method for sending out the links for all of the articles that I talked about tonight. So that'll go out on Tuesday along with the YouTube safe version of the show. Because as you guys know, I cannot leave this one on my channel or I'll have a strike very soon. Wow, it's 1:30. It's late. All right. So anyways, I just wanted to mention the Substack. Feel free to join that if you guys want to. And then let me just show you a couple things here on my Twitter page. Here is the Democrat eye test. How many rapists do you see? Not a trick question. And the other question is, can Democrats count to 2? I don't know. Maybe. Here's Tedros, the supervillain, another supervillain with the WHO. And what else? Oh, yeah. I thought this was kind of interesting. Back to Trump again for a second. Trump now has 11 times as many felony charges as Al Capone. What a time to be alive. So just remember that. He has 11 times as many felony charges as Al Capone. And then there's this one. The Clintons, 0 charges or trials. Hunter Biden, 0 charges or trials. Anthony Fauci, 0 charges or trials. Epstein clients, it's a long list, 0 charges or trials. Slow in America, 0 charges or trials. DC war criminals, 0 charges or trials. And this is a good pride one. We have the people shooting up the city and the police do nothing. And then we have the car doing donuts on the pride flag, and then police lights. The police is going to go arrest that guy. And then we have the officially June. You know what that means. And this is you may have seen this before. The Mercedes-Benz logo for the month of June, and the BMW logo for the month of June, and the Cisco logo, and Lenovo, and Bethesda. These are all of the normal pride logos that all these companies will put out. And yet, these are the logos that are used in the Middle East this month. There's not so much pride on the Middle East versions of their logos, is there? Oh yeah, I wanted to mention this. I haven't seen this film yet, but I'm going to watch it this week, and I will report back next week what it's like. Brian Rose, founder and host of London Real, you may know who he is. He's doing some good work out there. He has put out a movie, and it's available on Twitter. I don't know if it's available anywhere else, but if you're not on Twitter, I'll try and provide a link to another format, another platform, perhaps. We'll see. I did get it downloaded, so we'll see how we can make that work. But it's called "We Will Not Be Silenced." It's about his struggle and battle with censorship and what he's gone through, and I have been through some of those things to a much, much, much smaller degree that he's talked about. So I'm looking forward to watching the film just to see how close it really is. But in it, he goes into some details as to what happens on YouTube and some of the other platforms. So I'm looking forward to watching that. But yeah, Brian Rose's new film, "We Will Not Be Silenced." And again, London Real, he's doing really good work. He's interviewed. He was one of the main guys during the book that was talking with David Icke. You may remember the David Icke interviews. All right, well, that's it pretty much for me tonight, I guess. We have the YouTube channel, Take It to the Lord in Prayer, End Times Dates, and the Rumble channel. I don't think I mentioned any of these last week. BitChute channel, Diamond Disc on BitChute and Brighteon and Rumble, and then Band. This is the Band page, so definitely join the Band group if you want. We have a group of really good folks in there and sharing information. So, yeah, feel free to join that. Miss Emily's posted the link in chat. And if not there, then if you missed that, then you can definitely access that link in the description box. So, yeah, BitChute and Brighteon and Rumble is where the final version of the show will go tomorrow. And then on Tuesday, I will post back to YouTube the cleaned up and highly censored version where I have to take out all the medical misinformation. Emily says, now that's an accomplishment. He beat Capone in felonies. Yeah. He had, 11 times more. Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you guys for being here. And I saw a couple of things. There was one thing I was going to mention going back to that little piece of music that I played earlier that I said was one of mine. And I was trying to find where that was. Somebody had a question about that. Oh, it was Cowboy. He said, do you play the instruments, Doug, or is it all digital? Well, yes and yes. I do play instruments, and it was all digital. It was both. And you can do both these days. So, he said via his neural network persona. Yeah, that's how I did it. Yep. So anyways, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that little piece of music I played earlier, just because if you missed it, it was about, I don't know, early on in the show, back here on this Bart Supprell video piece here. So anyways, hope you guys have a really blessed week, and we'll plan to do this again next week. We went kind of long tonight, didn't we? So we'll pick it up again on the 9th. So the 9th will be Sunday night next week, 10 p.m. Central. Hope you guys have a really blessed week. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any comments or questions or thoughts about any of this stuff. And yeah, let me know what you guys are looking at and studying on various research and sundry things like that. And we'll plan to do it again next week. Blessings to you all. Hope you have a great night tonight, what's left of it, and a really super week this week. Love you all, and take care. We'll see you again very soon.